Hey, how's it going? ZmanTheTech here. Thanks for clicking on the video and tuning into SnoleyGames. Today I'm showcasing 5 3DS games that should be remastered for Nintendo Switch. Without further ado, let's get into it. Number 5 on my list is an episodic sci-fi first-person shooter that was developed by Renegade Kid, now known as a TUI, called Moon Chronicles. It's a dark and atmospheric FPS adventure with moderate puzzle solving and exploration. There are various weapons that you'll collect along your journey, and the game's story is gradually revealed as the player progresses through each level. The game features pre-rendered cutscenes, interesting lore scattered about in the form of text logs, and you'll also make use of a small drone to solve some of those aforementioned puzzle sections. There is also a nice variety of enemy types and bosses with unique patterns to figure out as well. With the fairly recent release of Dementium Remastered coming to the Switch, I have a feeling we may see the same treatment for Moon Chronicles at some point in the near future, preferably in its entirety via a definitive edition or the like. This is just me hoping, but it would be really cool to see. Number 4 on my list is a fast and frantic third-person shoot-'em-up called Liberation Maiden. It has a deep narrative-driven story with fully voice-acted dialogue, and the quality is top tier. As far as the plot goes, an invading country is stealing all of Japan's energy. You portray Shoko, who is a high school girl who became president of New Japan after her father's assassination, and she ends up piloting a mecha called Kamui to fight back against the opposing forces. An HD version of this game was released for iOS systems March 7th of 2013. The fact that that version exists gives me high hopes for a possible Switch release, and it would really be a treat to have. There was also a visual novel sequel of the game called Liberation Maiden Sin that was released for PS3 and PS Vita back in 2013 and 2014 respectively. However, it never made it outside of Japan. So if we were to get an HD remaster of Liberation Maiden and a localized version of its sequel in the form of a collection for the Switch, I feel there's definitely some money to be made there. Number 3 on my list is Dragon Ball Fusions. It was a very interesting RPG with strategic team battles that had stylish cinematics for all the attack phases. The game allows you to create your own character, build teams, and collect Dragon Ball characters to fuse and create new ones to use throughout your battles. It also allows players to take a photograph of themselves or their friends with the 3DS's built-in cameras and fuse them. More or less a fun little novelty, and probably not something that could be done with the Switch without the use of a smartphone or the like, but hey, I figured it was worth mentioning. The battle system is quite intuitive and features a rock-paper-scissors type of system to further deepen the strategy within it. They are categorized by speed being strong against power, power being strong against technique, and technique being strong against speed. So you'll need to keep that in mind and choose each opponent wisely based on which team member you're commanding during your turn. The blocking mechanic is pretty cool as well. When being attacked, you'll have the option to try and predict which side the attack is coming from, and if you move the stick in that corresponding direction, the block is successful. It's such a dope concept, and I'd love to see an HD remaster come to the Switch. Number 2 on my list is Culdcept Revolt. It's a turn-based strategy game with elements of card battling, deck building, and occupying of spaces on a game board. It actually gave me mild vibes of games like Fortune Street, but if it were fused with strategy RPG elements. It's got a lot going on, but once you get the hang of it, it's quite addictive. The single-player campaign is very much for the player to become acclimated with the game to learn its system, and to collect cards to build your deck. There is a decent narrative that it takes you through, and it's definitely worth your time. However, I feel the real fun to be had is battling others online. The main objective of the game is to be the first player to achieve a certain amount of magic and make it back to the goal to be crowned victorious. There are specific spots on the board that you have to occupy by placing a monster card on it, and whoever lands on that space occupied by your monster has to either pay a toll or fight that monster with the monster cards they have in their hand. These cards can be leveled up to increase that toll amount as well. There are spell cards all with their own relative abilities that can be used with your monster cards and increase their stats to give you the upper hand in battle. If you win that battle, the space becomes yours. Also, it's important to note that the more spaces of a certain element that you have, the more magic you'll gain at the start of your turn, so keep that in mind. This game has a lot of components to its system, and it may take some time to master, but once you do, it's hella fun. Number 1 on my list is an awesome tabletop-style RPG called Crimson Shroud. This game truly is made in the likeness of tabletop role-playing games where it uses dice rolls to determine the outcomes of combat. This game was designed by Yasumi Matsuno, and it was the first game he worked on since his involvement with Final Fantasy XII. He's also worked on Ogre Battle, Final Fantasy Tactics, Vagrant Story, and even created a scenario for Final Fantasy XIV's expansion Stormblood. Just for a point of reference, the man is legendary, and with Crimson Shroud he was given full creative freedom while working on it. This game was praised for being as close to a Dungeons & Dragons experience on a console as you can get, outside of official releases of course. The art design, soundtrack, and story are all on point and exhibit that familiar style that fans of Matsuno's work have come to know and love. The story, though it may be rather short, is definitely worth your time and a real treat, and I highly recommend it. It would be an honor to play an HD remastered version of this on the Switch. Plus, with the closure of the 3DS eShop, it's pretty much lost in time now. Alright, that's gonna do it for today's video, and I really appreciate you checking it out and sharing your time with me today. There are a huge amount of 3DS games outside of the 5 mentioned here that I would love to see brought to the Switch or whatever the successor will be. I just wanted to highlight these in particular, since these were the ones that I spent the most time with. Have you played any of these? Are there any 3DS games that you've been waiting for to come to the Switch or the like? Drop it down in the comments and let me know. If you like what you've seen, be sure to hit that like button as it helps out a ton with the algorithm to help push my content to others like yourself, and if you're new here, consider subscribing for more content like this. Have a good one, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.
Futuristic classic. Time is of the essence. I feel like I had mastered. Futuristic classic. It's always moving forward, so I'm never moving backwards.